Welcome to a webinar of OpenLM. I am Sagi. I will be your host. Today, we will be going over the reports of OpenLM. Now, if you have any questions, anything during the presentation, feel free to use the chat. There's also a QA. I don't know the difference between them, but we have both chat and Q&A. Just ask and I'll answer away once I finish my thought. So, what are we going to talk about today? OpenLM reports and how, how we can analyze the data coming out of these reports. Now, basically, how it flows, we look at the license activity itself, meaning sessions. Who's using, what they're using, for how long. From that, we can extrapolate the most used licenses, most using users, and so on. Now, based on that, we can get statistical analysis of your floating license. And lastly, we want utilization statistics and optimization suggestions. So this is what OpenLM can do. So basically, as you know, you got the OpenLM server, which has its database and it presents it on the OpenLM user interface. Now that's basically all the reports do. They present the database. They present data stored in your database. So I'm just gonna jump right into a system right here. I'm not gonna go over the live part too much. We're gonna go over the statistical analysis more. So jumping over the current events. Now you see I have a few license managers here, and I would like to know which one is used the most, for example. So the first report, if you go to Start, Reports, License Activity. Now don't put any filter here, no need. Just take, I don't know, last 60 days or whatever, just hit Apply. And go to the Group By tab right here. Now, please note that over here you'll have, of course, all the sessions, everything that the users did, how long they used, what they used, and so on. And this can be exported to a CSV file. And then you can use, of course, Excel and whatever to work with the data. But our first stop is actually to understand which feature is most used, which license server is most used. So we go to the Group By tab here. And we can do it by, let's say, feature. Sorting this, you can see this is my most used feature. So what I would like you guys to do, if you can, open up your OpenLM system and try to follow these steps. Just go to license activity, try to find the most used license that you have, and we'll walk along the different reports with it. So once we have the amount of time used, we can tell which feature we should look at first. Now, I just want to explain one thing about this. Diving deep into the data that you see here, we have this feature. This is a total usage time, and this is usage time within filter period. Now, we have heard this question many times from many clients. Why is there a difference between them? Well, this takes the whole session. Let's say that you wanted to take the last day or something, but you got a session that spanned from yesterday until tomorrow. So you want to take today, you can get his whole session time or just the slice that you desire. So basically, if I graph it out, let's say you have a session, And you want to look at this part. So this time span will be presented here within filter period because it's within the filter period. But total usage time will take into account the whole session from the start until the end. If it passes through your filter, it will be taken into account. This is why there's a difference. This will always be more than this. Now, besides that, we got idle period and token usage time. Same thing, token usage time within filter period. It works the same way. Now, this is in the case you have tokening system like IBM, for example, they provide tokens, not licenses. So in that case, you can see the token usage time. All right, I have a question here. I can't seem to run this report without selecting a feature. So make sure that you go to Start, Reports, License Activity, not license usage, license activity. License usage, we'll get to that in a moment. And indeed, you cannot do anything without selecting a filter, but go to license activity first. You see that you don't have to select a feature or anything for that matter. Now, I just want to dive into ease of use in these reports before I dive deep into the data, because once I start, you can't stop me. So just a few things I want to show you that are prevalent in all the reports of OpenLM. First of all, let's say you set up a filter. I select a certain feature or a certain server. Let's say I want ArcGIS, last 60 days. But I don't want to refilter this each time because it's a pain. Maybe I want to save this. So you can click here on the filter management. Not a lot of people know this, but you can store your own filter. So I just give it a name and I save it. When I want to pull it up, very easy, just go here and I can pull it up, filter one. One more thing I bet you guys did not know, if you go here to the white OpenLM icon, something that nobody pays any attention to, but has some functionality. If you click on it, you can do a few things that are of interest. First, add a shortcut to desktop. So I select my filter. So which desktop did it add it to? It added it to the OpenLM desktop right here. So when I click it, it will open up with the filter that I desire. Now, besides that, you can go to Properties, and you can open at Application Startup. That means when you open up the application, open up the browser, boom, it will open up automatically with the filter that you need. Let's say last 7 days or something, whatever you choose. All right, so this basically shows us usage time, but we are talking about floating licenses. Usage time is nice, but we need concurrency. We need concurrency reporting. So for that, I will take you to another report called license usage. So grab the feature that you had in license activity report that you found is the most used feature. Just grab it, grab its name, you can right click and of course, copy it. And filter it right here in the Start Reports License Usage report. Now, while you do that, I'm going to explain a bit about what this report is. Basically, it shows you the concurrent license usage. Now, you already know that, probably because most clients use this chart. You see here a full month in this case. You see that I have 70 licenses and that I'm rising to like 65, even 70 here and there. showing me a pretty good understanding and a pretty healthy license. Now I'm going to explain about a few things that we can do with this chart as well. Did you know we don't have to see the max? Maybe you want to see the average, or maybe you want to see the minimum. You can do that as well. Maybe you want to give it a different color. You can do that as well. Or maybe you want to show a few features together. So you can just select them and show them together. Now, another question we get is, what is this? Display separate chart lines. This is a very useful tool. Well, do you want to see these reports? Oh, that's a horrible color. There we go. Do you want to see these features together or separate? Now, if it's separate, you can see them here, each with its own color. But if I uncheck this, then I can see them both together. So if you got a few features that you want to bunch up in your report, well, you can do that, no problem. Now you can, of course, aggregate the usage in hours, days, weeks, and months, but as you see, you lose resolution as you do so. Now, what this will show you is basically the maximum for that hour. Each point on the graph is an hour, and you'll see the maximum for that specific hour. Now, it could have been at 62 for a second, but it's going to show me the maximum was 62, even if it was for a second. Now, you can also show without any aggregation. Takes a bit longer to generate, but you see the fluctuations themselves. So you see it got to 62 for maybe a few seconds, like 2 peaks, and then went down. Giving you a clear understanding of what's going on. Now we'll go deeper into it in a few moments. First of all, I want to change this. All right. Now what else do we have here? We have include current usage. Well, that's self-explanatory, but the second one, exclude unconsumed reservations, that's a mouthful. It confuses a lot of people. Basically, it means, do you want to show your usage with the reservations or without? Meaning, reserved licenses are going to be counted like they are used. So you can exclude them and don't see them in the chart at all, or include them and see it as usage. Because if you have a reserved license for one person, then nobody else can use it for all intended purposes. That license is not there, is taken, is used, basically. All right. Now, once we have this chart, get the feature, the most used feature, get like last 60 days or something like that, or maybe a month or something. Run the chart, see what you get. Now, if you get this, well, that's pretty good. You see that you're hovering next to the amount of licenses that we have, 70, but peaking just here and there. Now we can get another look at it as a table, of course, and export it if we'd like, or as a heat map right here. Now keep in mind that you can, if you have several features selected, you can select which feature you want to see in the heat map. If you have them display separate chart lines together, no, let me uncheck this. There we go. And then all selected features, I can't choose between them. All right. So once you see this, you open up your chart and it looks like this. Well, great, all good. But let's say that you open up your chart. Let's open it up. Let's get the demo high filter right here. And we see a different case. We see that it's maxing out for hours on end. I have 34 licenses. Obviously, not a good amount. I obviously need more. Now, even if we show this unaggregated, we can see it was hovering over this line for a very, very long time. Too much, meaning a lot of people got denied. So this indicates to you that you need more licenses. You're still not sure how many licenses or how bad is it, but OpenLM can help you later on to understand how many licenses you might need. So as an admin, what would you say the service that you're giving to your end users? Pretty bad, right? Because there are barely any licenses ever. Like, got a lot of people not getting licenses. That's really bad. So the service that you provide to them, that's pretty poor in this case. But let's say you open up this report and it looks like this, which we've seen many times. Now, the service that you provide to your users, as you see, that's 100%. That's a very good amount. That's a very good amount of licenses that you have. The end users are happy, but the managers are not. Procurement doesn't understand why you need so much money and nobody's using it. And you can tell this right away by looking at this chart. Oh, I know for a fact I can cut most of my licenses out. I just need like maybe 20 licenses, something like that. Right away, you can tell that it's barely used. You don't need this amount. But then you get into a sticky territory. How many licenses do you get? Do you get 10? And then I get some users mad at me? Do I get 15 and get like maybe 2 users mad at me? Do I get 20 and I get management mad at me? So it's a pretty much lose-lose situation, as you know. So you got to walk a really fine line for providing the service and cutting costs. So we have that exactly. We have another report called license utilization. Now, I want you to get the same filter, same features, same time span, same everything, and get it into start, management, license utilization. It will pull up a report that looks kind of like this. So select the feature, select the time, whatever you need, and apply. Look what it gives you. Now, right off the bat, what the hell is this? I don't understand what's going on. Well, this basically mirrors what we're seeing here. So let's take an example, the heat map demo. Let's take this example. We know that our utilization is pretty good, but how good? Like, let me ask you a question. How long did it spend on 70? Like, let's say that this month is 100%. You got a peak right here, you got a peak right here. Well, if I would have to guess, I would say it spent on 70 of maybe, I don't know, 0.5% of the time, if this is like 100%. 0.5%, that's nothing, but this is exactly what the license utilization tells us. It's actually 0.07%. On 69, it was 0.15 and so on. So now let's show it unaggregated. Now we understand that each dot here, each point on the graph represents the amount of time spent on each level. So how long did it spend on 65? How long did it spend on 70? Now, why is that good? Why is it useful? Because now we can tell the quality of service. Now, we'll get to that in a moment. But this basically tells you how well your service to the end users is. Basically, are you giving them 50%? probability of getting a license or 95% probability of getting a license? What are you giving them? So open up this report, select that feature, click apply here, and remove the aggregation. Add the line, of course, and remove the aggregation. First, let's understand what it shows us. So we know that it gives us the amount of time spent on each level. So basically, we see that 13, 14, 15, 16, right around this. This is most of the time. Most of the usage is concentrated between 10 and like 32 licenses used. Each one about 5% of the whole. Now, if we go to the license usage report, we can see, yeah, it hovers a lot over 14, 15, 12, 10, anywhere between 10 to like 30 most of the time. This is what we see here, represented right here. So if most of the time, most our usage is swinging this way, closer to the 1 and 0, well, we know that most of the time, even if the chart looks maxed out all the time, but it's not. It maybe rises for a second and then comes down. So this tells you what's behind this. Let's go to the license utilization again. We see that most of the usage is concentrated around here, but it's not good enough because we see that this is a server that serves probably one office because they have working hours, as you see, and working days. So let's consider only the working hours and only the working days. So we'll have a case like this, basically, instead of this. So we'll get only the times when we get most of the usage. Consider we're only working hours. Now, most of the time we see, well, it shifts. Let's see the shift. You see it moved from around 10 to 30 to maybe being between 40 to 63. This is most of my usage during working hours, if I'm only taking into account the working hours. So I see most of the usage is bunched up close to the amount of licenses that I have. Now, what does this allow us to do? First of all, understand the health of the license and what's hiding beneath the license usage report. If we see most of the usage on the right or most of the usage on the left, we can tell. Now, let's show aggregation. What's the aggregation? What is it good for, and why does it start with like 100? Well, looking at this chart, what's the probability of finding one user using? Well, pretty high, because like most of the time it's got 22 users. So for sure you get one user. You get two, you get 22. So what's the probability of finding one user, two users, three users using at the same time? Well, very, very high. It starts dropping at around 16, 17. We see that it's around 16, 17. We see that it's less likely to find someone 16, 15, 22, because you need more people. You need more people to work at the same time. It's harder to do, so it happens less often. And you see it's dropping and dropping until it gets to like 70, which is not often at all. As we see here, it's not often, just here, here, and here. So this shows you the probability of a user being able to get a license with the quality of service line. So if the probability of the users getting a license is 95%, this is what I want. I want them to be able to get the licenses that they need, statistically speaking, 95 times out of 100. Well, the line here shows me I need 64 licenses. Now, how does it calculate that? You want 95, it basically does the 100 minus 95, and it's 3.56%. This is the closest you can go without going over, as you see. And it tells us you need 64 licenses in this case. So in order to give our users 95% quality of service, probability of them getting a license 95, we need 64 licenses. If I'm really mean, I want to give them like 50%. So it's like a coin toss to get a license. Well, you just need 50 licenses. But in most cases, people want 99%. 99%, and we still see a reduction of a couple of licenses right here. Now run this on your system and probably you'll find some reduction that you can do. But let's take another case. Now that we understood this one, now I know it's a lot to wrap our heads around, but let's get another example. Let's get the demo high that we had before. So we'll say demo high. Let's get that one. The one that's maxed out most of the time, and during working hours, we see it's indeed maxing out a lot. So going to its license utilization, we see that we cannot even reach 99% because we don't have enough licenses to do so. So what are we giving them? Hovering over this, we see 8%. That means we're giving them 92% quality of service with our 34 licenses. Now let's show it unaggregated. You see that most of the usage is concentrated around the amount of licenses that I have, peaking even at the amount that I have, 34, which is very bad. That means you need more licenses. Now, let's take another example. Demo low. That means not a lot of usage. You got a whole lot of licenses, but not enough users to actually use those licenses. So it's going to be very rare to find a lot of users using at the same time. You see 70, maybe peaks at 15. So let's take a look what we have here. First of all, we see that we don't need most of the licenses. That it doesn't even get there. It goes from 100 to 0 in no time. Showing it unaggregated, we see that most of the usage is around 4, 5, 6 licenses used most of the time, tapering off, of course, near the 15, 16. Now, this shows us a pretty bad utilization because we're wasting a lot of money here on licenses that nobody's using. Nobody's using. So that's a good indicator for you to understand how many licenses you can cut and actually understand how well your service is. So if you're giving 90%, 95%, or 80%, you can run this on your system and see what you're currently giving them and what you would like to give them. Maybe you're currently giving them 99%, but you want to give them 90% or 95% or something. And this way you can cut a few licenses. Or maybe you just want to come to your boss and say, hey, look at this. We got the perfect amount of licenses. We got, I don't know, 70 licenses and it's a 99% quality of service. So barely anybody gets denied. All right, so this is basically what we use to define and understand how many licenses we can reduce, how well we're providing service to our end users. But we also have, of course, the denials report, which will show you how bad the situation was and how many users got denied. So right here, I see it was at 70, but for a really short amount of time. During that time, I had like 7 and 1. I had a small amount of denials. But let's say, taking the high example, I have a lot of denials during those times. During the low, we don't see any because never reached the amount of licenses that I have. All right, so this is how to use in conjunction the three main reports regarding usage and one denial, of course. First of all, let me go through this again. You go to license activity, it start reports, license activity. Here you can find the most used feature that you care about. Then you go to start reports, license usage. In license usage, you can understand how well you're using the licenses, taking that data into license utilization. So start, management, license utilization. Basically, we answered a few questions. How much time is it used? How well is it used? And what do I need to do in order to make this as efficient as possible? And that's pretty much it. There are, of course, many more reports of OpenLM which can be used in conjunction with each other. But at the moment, I'm just going to leave you with those. These are the main reports that we use. The license utilization report, sadly, is not used enough. We don't see many clients that find it on their own, but once we show it to them, it becomes a stable part of their reporting capabilities. Now, make sure to use this yourself. You might get some good insights. Because you might open up your report and it will look like this. You might open up your report and it will look like this. But the license utilization report might tell you a different story. It might tell you, yeah, it got to these points, but for a second. It's really something that you shouldn't care about or worry about. It's negligible. So basically it will tell you what's going and what's hiding behind these reports. All right, and that's basically it, guys. That's all I have for today. If you have any questions, go ahead, just ask away. You can use the Q&A section or chat box. Don't know the difference, but I can see them both, so whatever you need. You're welcome, Andre. Happy to help. Now, keep in mind that if later on you have any questions or you have any trouble or whatever, you can contact us. Go to About Us, contact us. You have many ways of contacting us. First of all, sales support via email. You can call us up through any of these numbers. But the fastest way to get in touch with us is the chat. You have a chat here, just click it, and it will go to a support or sales member, depending on what you choose. And this is the fastest way. So if you have an issue, just call us up on chat, and within about a minute, you'll get a response. All right, guys. So go ahead, take the stage if you have any questions. I'll be happy to answer. I know this webinar was a bit technical and a bit data intensive. So will it show any expired licenses in any of the reports? Well, that's a good question. Let's go there. If you go to Start, Operational, Management, License Procurement. Now here in License Procurement, you can, of course, just apply without anything, or you can filter it out. You can find things that are going to expire or already have expired. And keep in mind that if it's 30 days before the expiration, the line will be red. It will flash red telling you, hey, it's going to be expired, basically. So here you see all permanents because all my licenses are permanents, except these ones. You see they have the expiration date. But we can take this one step further. Let's say you don't want to come into this report each time to open it up, filter it, and you don't want to go into the interface. Well, you have two options. Either you can set it up to just send you this report. You can do it on a schedule, and you can schedule to yourself to any emails. Now, this is in all the reports of OpenLM, not just this one. All the reports you can schedule and just get them by email, this license procurement report. Or if you have the alerts extension, alerts management, going to start, administration. Sorry about that, alerts management. You can find here different criteria that you can set. One of which is expiration days. So if it's below, I don't know, 30 or 60 days, you get notified by email, hey, this license is about to be expired. So just to repeat, if you go to management, license procurement, you can see the expirations. If you don't want to go into the interface and make your life easier, you can schedule this report and get it by email. Or if you have the extension, you can just use the alerts management itself. So any expired licenses will, of course, also be shown here. Yes. Just one thing, if you want to look at the licenses which are already expired, you need to include the obsolete ones. And you'll see the obsolete, either expired or redacted. Can you export the reports into Excel, or are there formats to be able to email to managers for review? Yes, of course. So when you receive the schedule, if it has a table, you'll get it as a CSV file, which of course you can open up in Excel. And if it also has a visual, so for example, take a look at this one, which has a chart, table, and heat map, you'll get all of them. The chart and heat map you'll get as an image, but the table you'll get, of course, as a CSV file, which is natively opened with Excel. Now, keep in mind that OpenLM also has an option to connect a business intelligence tool like Power BI, Tableau, ClickSense, ClickView, all of those. But this is another webinar, it's an extension. Basically, it allows you to manipulate the data however you like. So you don't have to use the reports of OpenLM. You can extend further and use any BI tool or any SQL querying tool with the Reporting Hub extension. But that's another webinar. If you are interested, you can just go to our website, type in Reporting Hub, and you'll find an explanation there. All right, any more questions? Don't be shy. Anything you got, just go ahead. All right, so while I'm waiting, I'll just explain a bit about these two different colors that you're seeing. You're probably asking yourself, hey, why is this black and why is this blue? This is the new version of OpenLM, the latest and best, which is still in beta, version 21. If you would like to join the beta, please send us an email. We'll be happy to schedule a meeting to set you up with the beta itself. Now, what's different about it? Basically, security, a few changes in the interface itself, and everything is, of course, much faster. We got performance issued, fixed, and a bunch of things. Main point was security. We got a whole new security module for the new version, but we also got a new interface, new colors and such. What about reporting on named user licenses? Autodesk, for example, has switched to this paradigm. Yeah, we know. We got a lot of clients asking this because I don't know if you guys know, Autodesk decided that no longer will they be providing floating licenses. They provide now two types of licenses, either named licenses or token flex licenses, but this is for huge organizations, usually. So asking about the named licenses, OpenLM can indeed monitor them as well. All you'll need is a component called the OpenLM Agent on the workstation, because as you know, if it's a named license, there's no server to track. There's no license managers, there's no nothing. So to circumvent that and still to be able to get usage of those applications, you can roll out the agent on the end user workstation. The OpenLM agent basically reports on any tasks running in the background. So you define it, tell me when Autodesk ACAD opens up. So it will report on that ACAD opening up, for how long it's being used, when it was closed, and so on. So we do have a solution for it, and all the data flows into OpenLM in the same way as floating licenses. So for example, I have here like Microsoft and PZip and a bunch of stuff which don't have any licensing. But I can still track them with the OpenLM agent. Now, one word about this Autodesk, one final word. If you are using Autodesk and it is getting some license, some named license from the cloud, then we can connect to the cloud and get the quantities of licenses from there and the usage of licenses from the agent, as we've seen. So does it work for ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Enterprise, or is it only for desktop version? So it works with ArcGIS Online if you mean by ArcGIS Online being the license manager, basically. If the server providing the licenses is on ArcGIS, ArcGIS Online, I think I have it here. Let me take a look. ArcGIS Cloud. So if you're referring to this, maps, ArcGIS Cloud, all this, then basically, yes, we can monitor the usage and the quantities from there. So no problem with that. Meaning who's using, what they're using, everything. Now, if it's a desktop version, also we can monitor that. If it's getting the license from on-premise, so if it's getting the license from the cloud, doesn't matter. We monitor all of them. Now, this can be done, of course, without any agent component. You can just monitor the license manager itself, either on the cloud or on-premise. But for ArcGIS specifically, the agent allows for the users to set the ArcGIS licensing level. Now, if you're unaware, OpenLM helps you with the ArcGIS licensing level because the user would need to go and change it in the registries or changes in parameters or something and relaunch the application and all that in order to get a different license. Well, you can do that just using the agent, choose a different license, click set, and he grabs that different license, basic, standard, advanced, and so on. So this is like specifically for ArcGIS because you asked, this might be helpful. Now, this doesn't matter if it uses, of course, in online or on-premise version. It doesn't matter, it works on both. Do you require a specific service account to connect to these cloud services? So yeah, it needs to be, well, it depends. If you're talking about ArcGIS Online, then I don't believe there's any specific user you need for it. But keep in mind that if you're not using a service account and the password keeps changing like every month or so, you'll just have to change the password in OpenLM as well. But if you have a service account that doesn't change its password, then you just plug it into OpenLM and that's it. You can forget about its configuration. It just runs. If you're talking about Autodesk Cloud, well, that works a bit differently. You do need a service account and it has to be without two-factor authentication. We're still working on it for Autodesk. We still don't have it implemented. In any case, to answer your question, it's always better to have a service account because you don't want to go and change the password each time. Each time they change your password, you need to go to OpenLM and change it as well. And you missed some data meanwhile, and it's not the way to go. So yeah, it's better to go with a service account. Cool. All right, anybody else? Chris, Brett? I see a lot of names I recognize right here. If you have any questions, shoot. All right. So we have gone over a bit over our time. Usually we allocate 45 minutes for this. It's okay. I will be closing the webinar. Thank you very much, guys, for your attention. Thank you very much for your time. I really hope that I taught you something new about OpenLM that maybe you didn't know. But again, if you have any questions, if I wasn't clear enough or whatever, just send us an email on chat and we'll be happy to help you. So thank you very, very much, guys. I hope to see you on the next webinar. Have a great day.